So I'm asking all of you right now as we get in the final capsule in the East. Again, we got West tomorrow. We still got seeding and everything else to get to. Are we saving the best series for last? Question mark. Because it's the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Original six matchup. Again, you always love these. The Bees had a really good record. 47, 20, and 15, 109 points, plus 43. Toronto Maple Leafs, a very fine season. Auston Matthews does not get to 70 goals, but he does end up with 69. 46, 26, and 10, 102 points, plus 40. I know anyone that follows Steve Dangle on the stuff that used to be on Sportsnet still got his channel. He had about a minute and 30 clip of him just laughing and saying locking themselves into a series with the Boston Bruins and a little bit of inner monologue for Maple Leafs fans. I understand how that can feel. But again, I think if you're Toronto, you want to build in on everything from last year. That includes winning a round. You just don't want to take the we want Florida side of it. You just take care of your own business. I think we've all learned from that, especially if you're a Leafs fan. Head coaches Jim Montgomery versus Sheldon Keefe. No repeat of 23 versus maybe I'll take that. That's what they were talking about on 97.1 The Ticket. Again, that'll sting the Mike Valeni, but still. That's probably how the Maple Leafs feel. They want to get back to the second round and start again. And then I got Pasta versus AM34, goaltending duo versus, honestly, the great unknown to me. So stats on centerpieces. Let's start with the Bruins. Pasta. David Pastrnak, all 82 games played. What a fantastic year. One more time. 47 goals, 63 assists, 110 points at plus 21. Brad Marchand, who was named the captaincy, all 82 for him. 29, 38, 67. Charlie Coyle, 25, 35, and 60. Pavel Zacha, 21, 38, 59, plus 12. So, for guys like David Pastrnak to be able to do what he did with 110 points and get 47 goals and 63 assists is nothing short of remarkable, and a plus 21. This is not being disparaging toward Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha, who are essentially playing the second center, third center role, top six, bottom six, kind of differentiate between the two. Pavel Zacha is the top six, Charlie Coyle maybe a step below that. But David Pastrnak is playing with a great team. They got some veterans and they got some talent. They're good players. But he's not playing with a ton of superstars. And yet he had 110 points on the season. I hope you get what I'm saying here. Boston's a very good team, but they're not just overflowing with talent. They just got a ton of really good players, and they play well. I thought Pastrnak had a great year. Because when you look at it for the Maple Leafs, it's the same thing that you would expect. Now, Auston Matthews played 81 games, against 69 goals, 38 assists, 107 points, plus 31, the two-way beast. Auston Matthews, and again, almost 70 goals on the year. Willie Nylander, all 82, 40, 58, 98. Mitch Marner, 69 games played for him, dealt with a little bit of injury, still played exceptionally well. 26, 59, 85, plus 21. And I threw Johnny T in there, John Tavares. 80 games played, 29 goals, 36 assists, 65 points. Because when I talk about the situation for Boston, maybe the top-end talent, when you think about Toronto, again, this is 3 years of doing these capsules, where this is the core four here doing the damage. And they're still getting it done. I know you went from Kyle Dubas to Brad Treliving, but still, you're in the same situation that you were, where these guys have to be the head of the snake and drive the bus. And again, I look at it for Boston and say, hey, that level of talent is not the same on the other side as far as offense, but you got Pastrnak with that many points. It's a little scary if you're Toronto, I would think. Premium defense, Charlie McAvoy, 74 games played, 12 goals, 35 assists, 47 points plus 4. Hampus Lindholm, not the same year he had last year, but still pretty good. 3 goals, 23 assists, 26 points plus 18. That's what matters, being positive on the defensive side. Morgan Rielly for the Leafs, great year for him. 7 goals, 51 assists, 58 points, 7 plus 7. Jake McCabe, 73 games played, 8, 20, 28 plus 20. TJ Brodie, 78 games played. He's a defensive defenseman, really. 1 goal, 25 assists, 26 points plus 17. Here's the thing for me. And again, I think this gets overblown if you're a Leafs fan or not, or if you're one of those ones where you call them the Toronto Maple Laughs. I get it. It's all the way across the board. People have fun with it. Back-end defensive highlights for the Bees. Brandon Carlo, not a lot of points. 76 games played, 14 points, but a plus 23. That is excellent, being a shutdown defenseman. So here's the other portion. Again, these numbers got changed from yesterday in comparison to the Leafs losing their last game. But Simon Benoit, Connor Timmins, Timothy Liljegren. So Benoit and Timmins are at a +7, +9. Not too bad. I think some of the defensive stuff gets overblown for the Leafs. They've been pretty good in that bottom six portion of defense. But Timothy Liljegren's been a surprise. 55 games played, 3 goals, 20 assists, 23 points, +3. I think Liljegren's been pretty good. Been able to move on guys like Justin Holl, who was signed by Steve Yzerman and Detroit, didn't even really play. But you inserted Liljegren, he didn't fall off, and Timmins and Benoit didn't fall off. I understand there's a lot of discrepancy to talk about Toronto's defense, and maybe it's not so great. Mark Giordano is at the end of it, we understand that, but I don't think it is as bad as people say. But spotting a weakness and goals aplenty. So for power play, surprised me a little bit for the Bees that they are a little bit better than middle of the pack, but 22.2%, which is 13th out of 32 teams. And their penalty kill is 7th at 82.5%. So specialty teams, pretty damn good. Again, they're over that 100% mark over the average, about 104.8%, something like that. So very, very strong specialty teams for Boston. But the power play I thought would be a little bit better. For Toronto, same thing. I thought their power play would be a little bit better. Still very dynamic, though, at 24%, which is 7th. Their penalty kill, though, for Toronto leaves a lot to be desired. And that means if David Pastrnak and some of the other skilled forwards like Zacha and Coyle still are, again, nothing disparaging there, they can still do damage. If Boston can get their power play going a little bit more, again, 13th is not bad, but 13th against 23rd, it feels like they could have a little edge in this series. And watch that, because 76.9%, 23rd out of 32 teams, that's not very good. And Toronto can't afford to give Boston power plays. Goals for Boston, 13th at 263. Toronto just edged out the Colorado Avalanche by a goal. They had 297. We'll talk about them tomorrow. The Toronto Maple Leafs had 298. This is the biggest proponent in this series, though. Again, as we said, a lot of this stuff comes down to goaltending. So for the Bees, very excellent. And what are you going to do in the off season? I know you have to sign him. That's the only thing you can say about Jeremy Swayman. But how much money is he going to get? Because Swayman and Ullmark, I know you went through some of the injury designations, and I think Jim Montgomery is going to learn from last year that when Ullmark got injured in the Game 5, Game 6 side, you don't put him back in for Game 7 and have the situation get too far. I think they'll learn from that, and Boston won't lose in the first round. That's my guess on the top of it. But we'll see what happens, because Toronto can give them their hands full. But for Jeremy Swayman, he's due for a contract extension. He's going to get one. The question is how much. 44 games played. He was 25, 10, and 8, 253 goals against, 916 and 3 shutouts. Linus Ullmark, 40 games played, 22, 10, and 7, 258, 915 and a couple shutouts on that side. Elite goaltending tandem, the best in the league between Swayman and Ullmark. They just need to be able to stay healthy. For Ilya Samsonov on the other side for the Leafs, it's 40 games played, 23, 7, and 8, 313 goals against, 890 save percentage, 3 shutouts. Again, those numbers sound poor, but that's only because at the very beginning of the year, Samsonov struggled so badly that the numbers were elevated. But this would be one of the only times I'll give you a 3 goaltending tandem, because it's got to be. Joseph Woll hadn't played a lot of games since coming back from injury, just 25. He was 12, 11, and 1, 293 goals against, 907 save percentage. His numbers were better than Samsonov, but yet the Leafs didn't do as well. And then for Martin Jones, he finished 11, 8, and 1 in 22 games, played 287 goals against, a 902 save percentage, and 2 shutouts. Does Matt Murray get activated off LTIR? That was the question mark. We don't know about that per se. So that could be 4 goaltenders in the rotation here playing the merry-go-round. I still think if it comes down to Game 1, just because Joseph Woll hasn't played a lot, I still would lean to Ilya Samsonov. That's me. Whether Samsonov is going to play or not, I still think he's going to be the top. I think he's been a better goaltender in this second half. That's where I lean. You can flip a coin if you're Jim Montgomery for Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. And I think Jim Montgomery's done a great job because Swayman and Ullmark had split in between the games played. Again, 40 and 44 is 84 games. Again, they've appeared in some other ones. So that's why you get over that marker. There's only 82 games in the season, but Montgomery's done a great job splitting the two to make sure that they can keep their energy fresh. Usually when you get into the postseason, as always, you go through one goaltender unless some of them have fits and starts and struggle. But it's going to be very interesting. Boston in this series against Toronto in the regular season was terrific. They went 4-0. They swept the Leafs. Who wins this series and gives some reasons for both? So let's start with the Leafs here first, actually. So for Toronto, I already know that I'm going to get production from guys like Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares. We've talked about this over the last couple of years from doing these capsules. I expect the core four and Morgan Rielly included to be able to get the job done and score points. For Toronto to be able to win this series, they've got to get that back end. And again, I would talk about Benoit, Timmins, Timothy Liljegren, guys on the back end for defense there, Mark Giordano included. You've got to be able to win your matchups. You cannot allow the Boston side of it. I don't care top six, bottom six, because I don't want to use the same narrative. You can't allow, when you have the second and third line defensive side for Sheldon Keefe to get absolutely exposed. I'm not worried about Morgan Rielly and TJ Brodie, but I am worried about some of the stuff on the back end on defense there against all lines here for Boston Bruins. Lock things down. Make sure you know where your man is defensively and don't let them beat you down the ice for clear breakaways. And make sure you know where you are. Block some shots and figure out where you are with your goalie. Get the puck out. There's some times when you watch Toronto over the years, you say, this is not a very defensive structure that's sound. And you can't have that right now. You got to be able to make sure you take that 4-0 season series in the regular season, you throw that right out the window and you start fresh in a 7-game series here. That's what a lot of teams will do. I think Toronto is capable of doing that, especially because their power play is also very good. And we've known that across the time. But that is what they got to do because you're going to have to answer again, much like Florida last year, between that goaltending tandem of Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. It's very hard to take out two goaltenders that are very good, that are playing at the top of their game. Toronto Maple Leafs slayed whatever dragon that they needed to slay last year in the first round series against the Bolts. And they can do it again. They can do it again. But you locked yourself into a series with the Boston Bruins. You're on the road. I think it's very important if Toronto is going to win this series, they got to split at least. Split at TD Garden. I'd flat out even say, honestly, they need to win both games in TD Garden. Because sometimes the Toronto Maple Leafs can white knuckle it on home ice. Sometimes leaving it booed off of home ice at Scotiabank Arena. Can't have that. I think they got to get off to a good start. Take game one. Kind of get a little bit of a push there and get some of their momentum. That's how I feel about on that side for Toronto. I know it's the easy button action, but it doesn't change. That's where it is for Toronto now. Get off to a good start on the road and display your will. And for the Boston Bruins, you got to take everything. You can't think about the Brad Marchand goal up the chance off the post that didn't get finished, stops from Bobrovsky. You had that series dead to right up 3-1. The Florida Panthers come back winning. You got to throw that out of your mind. I know you lost guys like Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, but yet this team is still right there. The goaltending tandem's elite. The defense is very good. Specialty teams across the board is good. And I think Jim Montgomery learned from some of that pain from last year that the Boston Bruins can come back and be just as every bit as good as they were last year, except now take it into the second and third round and then see what happens after that. I don't know if the Boston Bruins will get to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I should expect them to get out of round one. Yet this is another difficult matchup here against the Maple Leafs. If they find themselves, as we said, like Toronto having a push of strength here in the first couple of games and maybe taking the first couple or splitting, then Boston's got to go back in Toronto and silence that crowd. And if you're a Toronto fan, you got to make sure that you stay loud and you can't pretty much sit on your hands because you know what you expect when you pay that type of money, but you got to be able to bring that support as well. But for Boston, You use that same goaltending tandem. If somebody doesn't work out well, you don't be afraid to swap them out if you're Jim Montgomery. And you continue to ride the legs of David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, and all the other depth that you have. Some of the back end pieces for the Boston defense, when you think about guys like, I will say Van Riemsdyk or Shattenkirk especially, I should say Shattenkirk, that they can be had on the back end. But I still think Boston, this is a toss-up here. I might go with the slight upset. I'm going to go ahead and say the Toronto Maple Leafs get it done. I'll say that this is going to be a long series, and I'll say that it'll go 7 games. I'm going to go upset here. I didn't think I was going to in the first 4 here, but I'll take it. Why not? Toronto won that first round last year. That was a big emotional lift for them. They want to get back here again, and Brad Treliving knows what he's got in this core. The Boston Bruins, they're going to push this all the way through, and they're going to want to exercise those demons from last year when they had the Panthers until they didn't. This is going to be a fun series. This is the one that I end on here in the East because Alec and Nava and I are going to be covering this one Saturday, April 20th in Game 1, 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS. So we'll see you on Saturday night. I got one more set of capsules tomorrow on the Friday night once all the seedings are done. For the West, we've got 4 more, and then Alec Nava and I will join you for Game 1, and then I will have further coverage down the road for Monday and Tuesday next week until we get into the Waterford Shark stuff following that, and I'll be away for a few days. So hopefully I've given you reasons for both. I'm going to take the Maple Leafs in 7, and as we've gone across, hopefully in that last one that we talked about in between the Battle of Florida, I can merge those 2 videos. I will see you tomorrow, and again, I'm very eager on Saturday to be able to talk about the Leafs and the Bruins because, again, between Alec Nava and I, Saturday, April 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS, again on Sportsnet as well. It's going to be a lot of fun to cover this series, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Because the Stanley Cup playoffs start on Saturday. We've got one more capsule set tomorrow, and then we'll be back into the driver's seat.